All right, everyone, thank you for being here today. The season in Texas is already gearing up. Had some cold weather, but now it's warming up and everyone's busy. So I appreciate that you're able to take an hour out of your day, hour out of your morning to spend some time with me. It means you're interested in what we're discussing today. Today's topic is succeed at plant healthcare. I go to lots and lots of different tree workshops and conferences and things of that nature, as I'm sure a lot of you do. And oftentimes, while the information that I get from these conferences is good, when I look at it critically, I feel there's a lot of presentations that aren't applicable to the commercial arborist. And so as of late, that's kind of been the position I'm coming from when I'm creating a presentation. I want to create a presentation that a commercial arborist can take the information and directly apply to their business in something that's useful. And so that's what I try to do today. And this is probably one of the first talks I've done that is not geared around some sort of tree-related issue. You know, I've done talks on diagnosis, abiotic disorders, plenty of talks on emerald ash borer, oak wilt, chlorosis, you name it. I've talked about it. So this one is really focused on the business side of things. And it's a lot of fun. I had a good time putting this together, and I actually gave this presentation in Kansas earlier this year and had great feedback. So thank you for joining me today, and I hope you enjoy it. Get my
Bluetooth connected.
Here we go. So my name is Emmett Muennink. I've been with Arborjet for 8 years, and I am the South Central Technical Manager. Prior to working with Arborjet, I was the plant healthcare manager for a Dallas area tree care company. And with that, I did all sorts of various things for the tree company: grinding stumps, dragging brush, substitute crew lead, sales, diagnosis, just kind of a little bit of everything, which is good. That's how you become a well-rounded arborist. I became a certified arborist in 2011, and I've been a board certified master arborist since 2017. I have a bachelor's degree in agronomy and a master's degree in crop science. And so my education is really geared towards plant soil science, growing things. And my professional background is all in tree care, in plant healthcare specifically. And so I've managed a plant healthcare company successfully. And what's cool now being with Arborjet is I get to see a lot of different companies. I see who does plant healthcare certain ways, who's doing it right, who's dabbling, who's just barely testing the water. And so I've kind of combined aspects of different things I've been exposed to and put it in this presentation. So just to get off the bat here, what is plant healthcare? I put together a few different definitions. Plant healthcare is a holistic approach to caring for your trees and landscape plants with the goal of improving and maintaining their health and aesthetics. PHC program draws from different strategies, including cultural, biological, and pest disease control treatments. And so kind of to boil all that down, it's an IPM program that's tailored for each property. And so oftentimes I'll meet with folks that, they don't do plant healthcare yet. They've been focusing on the service side of tree care, and they're just wanting to start getting into it. And so to address that, why plant healthcare? Why do you need this? Why is this something you should consider for your business? Well, number one, whether you know it or not, the properties that you service, they want healthy plants. They want their yard to look like this one in the background. Healthy, green, flowering plants everywhere. And if that's not a service that you're offering, if you're not offering PHC already, and somebody asks you a question, because inevitably that's going to happen. You're going to get asked by a homeowner or a property owner, hey, what is wrong with this shrub? What is wrong with this tree? And if you don't know that answer, what are you going to say? Oh, well, call Bartlett. They do plant healthcare. They can answer your question. Are you going to refer that business out? So PHC offers a couple of different aspects to your business. It gives you an opportunity for renewable services. And with these renewable services, they are high margin and low overhead. And that's kind of the key for business, right? If you're looking at things from a business lens, you want high margin, low overhead, something renewable. And so when I meet with, for instance, lawn care customers, and maybe I show them about tree injection, they getting some feedback. Josh, can you make sure everyone's muted? So if I meet with a lawn care company and I show them tree injection, they think, oh, this is great. I'm going to go inject every tree on every property every year, because they want that vertical, they want that renewable, because that's how lawn care is operated. And so I tap the brakes and say, no, slow down. That's not what tree injection is for. But that's where their mind goes, because that's how they've been operating lawn care, right? With lawn care, you have a 6 treatment program or 8 treatment program. It's that renewable service where you're touching that property multiple times. And so you can do that with plant health care or tree and shrub care too. It just takes a different approach, a different angle. And so kind of my point, are you going to refer this out, or are you going to be a full service arborist company or a full service tree care company? Oh, sorry, we don't do that. Call Davey, call Bartlett. They do plant health care. You know, that makes you look less professional in the eye of the person that you're meeting with. Well, man, why don't I just use them for everything? And so being able to provide that full service makes you look a lot more professional, and it rounds out your business nicely. This is another situation that I come across often. Dabbling. Are you just dabbling in plant healthcare? Answer that question to yourself. Think about it. Think about your business. Are you actually doing plant healthcare, or are you just kind of testing the waters, just dabbling in it? And if you answer yes, I'm just dabbling, I want you to, I know we're already midway through February, but I want you to make a New Year's resolution to actually commit to plant healthcare as a revenue center for your business. Stop dabbling, really just jump in with both feet. And in order to do that, you've got to make a business plan. Oftentimes what I run into is maybe in the Midwest, I'll bump into, or I'll be visiting with somebody. Oh yeah, we treat ash trees for EAB. Okay, are you doing other plant healthcare services? No, we just treat, maybe a couple hundred ash every year, and that's it. That they are dabbling. An easy opportunity came about with EAB. That's all they've done. They haven't done anything else with it. Even though they're making serious dollars treating those trees, they haven't explored what else is out there with PHC. So make a business plan. Nobody was ever successful at doing anything in business without a plan. And with that, you've got to take it seriously and put in the time and effort to succeed. You're not going to succeed at PHC if you're just treating some ash trees here or there and dabbling. So take plant healthcare in your company and separate it, run it. Think of it as an entirely separate business from what you're doing on the service side. Run it differently. It's a separate business. It's not just something you do here or there. Actually give it the attention that it needs, separate it from the service side so that it can succeed. This next bullet point is something I tell folks all the time, and it pertains to all sorts of, any type of industry that's out there. The easiest way to grow your business or grow your revenue is to sell more things to the same customer base. If you are currently a tree care company doing pruning and removals, consultations, things like that, you probably already have a customer base of hundreds, if not thousands of people. That go back to them and start offering plant healthcare services. You could probably use MailChimp or Constant Contact or something like that. Hey, we're now offering PHC, or maybe after we make a business plan, you could use that as a launch pad to just start selling more things to the same customer base. And just to be cheesy here, a line we've probably all heard, failure to plan is planning to fail. make sure you make a business plan, stop dabbling, and really take this serious. All right, so what should be in my plan? All right, so first you want to look at what licenses are needed for plant healthcare treatments. And to do that, you need to go to your state Department of Agriculture website. I'm familiar with Texas better than anything. So go to the TDA website. In Texas, you need a commercial pesticide applicator's license, category 3A, which is ornamental. Most folks that are doing lawn care already have this license. And the way the law works in Texas is if you are charging for pesticide applications, you need to be a commercial applicator. The thing is, if you're charging for those applications, that's how the law works. Other things you may need is a registered technician training program, or if you, the applicator, are not doing the work, you need to get the technician registered with the state as well. Also, I think it's extremely beneficial for you to be an ISA certified arborist. That's not required, but it really shows your dedication to your business and to what you're trying to accomplish with trees. It kind of sets you apart. Then you need to figure out how you're going to keep records. Some folks still do it on paper. There's other electronic sources out there, maybe both. Have a conversation with your insurance agent, what insurance is needed. I don't think when you're doing liquid services that insurance is going to be that big of a jump up. What lights up an insurance agent's eyes is the word wood chipper and chainsaw, not really spray truck. So check with your insurance agent. You might need to make some changes there. And then you kind of get into the meat of it. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. What services are you going to be offering? How do you bill for those services? What are the rates? What equipment do I need to get started? And then who's going to be making these treatments? Where do I start? This question, I get this question often. Where do I start? In fact, I think there's some folks on here that I've had conversations recently that kind of revolve around this question. And my answer, if you're asking this, if you're new to plant healthcare, my answer is to become very good at a few things. Baby steps, or how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, right? So I said earlier, I've been a certified arborist since 2011. I graduated from Texas Tech with a master's degree in 2010. And my education was all in crop science. I studied row crop, came out of school, started working for a tree care company as a plant healthcare technician, and I knew nothing about trees. My tree identification wasn't even that good. I'm coming out of college. I think I know it all, get involved in this parallel industry from what I'd learned in school, and just realized that I know nothing. Now, it's 2000, so 12 years later, I've been a board certified master arborist since 2017. I found that tree care is something I'm really, really passionate about and that I enjoy doing. And so anything new that came about just kind of stuck in my head because I'm a nerd and I'm a tree nerd, but become very good at a few things. You're not going to learn a whole new aspect. You're not going to learn everything you need to know in the first year. So just pick off a few things that you're comfortable with and get started there. So think about what are the most common plant healthcare opportunities in your service area. We have folks on this call today from all over the United States. Think about what is a big problem, maybe 2 or 3 things in your service area to focus on and go from there. And as you focus on those 2 or 3, 5 opportunities, whatever you decide on, you're going to get out on properties. You're going to be exposed to other things. You're going to be learning more because you're looking for these opportunities more frequently. And you're going to see other things, and people are going to be asking you questions, and that's how you learn. And if somebody asks you a question you don't know the answer, just tell them, I'm not sure what that is, but I'll get back to you. And you'll be so surprised at the response somebody gives you when you actually do get back to them, when you do what you say you're going to do. And something we're going to talk about throughout the course of this presentation is deep root fertilization. You can do that with the carbon-based product or NPK, your traditional fertilizer. This is something, if you are going to succeed at plant healthcare, you really need to get involved in deep root. And we're going to talk about that as we go through the presentation. So if you're looking at where do I start, that would be, if I was making recommendations, that would be one place to start. Other opportunities, especially in the western half of the United States, which I'm very familiar with, chlorosis is a very easy opportunity. EAB, if you're in an area with EAB, that's easy. Japanese beetles, those are another easy opportunity. You can see them defoliating the plant, easy to control, easy to diagnose. Other things that may be in your area: bagworms, anthracnose, diplodia, scale insects, drought. These are all kind of Western pests, which I'm more familiar with, but just think about what's in your area, wherever you are in the United States, and make a plan for what you're seeing. When I say make a plan, what I mean by that is to develop treatment protocols. Work with, whoever's on the call. You all have, I'm the Arborjet rep for the South Central. We have 10 or 11 of us throughout the United States. Get with your local Arborjet person and develop some treatment protocols for these different things that you want to focus in on. Make a plan. For instance, with chlorosis, if I gave a presentation on that, I have a 2-step treatment program for treating chlorosis. With Japanese beetles, maybe the timing might be different, how you respond to that pest or the plant that they're on. So get with your Arborjet person, come up with treatment protocols. Something else I didn't put on here, a person I've met with in the DFW area, the 2 things that they wanted to focus on is they said, we want to get our deep root fertilization streamlined. And then we also want to develop a construction mitigation program. Those were the 2 areas they wanted to focus on. And so I helped them develop a whole plan for construction mitigation. Maybe that's a big opportunity. It doesn't have to be just a pest, but I'm just think outside of the box. Another person I had a conversation with down near Houston, crepe myrtle bark scale is a big issue. So the 2 things they wanted to focus on, hey, we're going to get deep root going and we're going to be treating crepe myrtles for scale. And that's all. That was their New Year's resolution for 2022, was to do those 2 things. And we talked about some other stuff, pine bark beetles, chlorosis, and he's like, yeah, you know what? We'll do those things in 2023. We want to get really good at these 2 big opportunities for 2022, and then we'll add on from there. And that's really what I'm saying. Okay, so what services are you going to offer? If you open up the plant healthcare toolbox, it can be rather confusing. Most people, when they think of plant healthcare, for some reason, they jump to insect and disease control, pest management, right? That's what people think of. It is an aspect of it, but it's not all of what plant healthcare is. So when you look at insect and disease, you're looking at foliar sprays, bark sprays, soil drench, tree injection, maybe even beneficial insects. So are you going to be offering, which of these services are you going to be offering? Foliar sprays, that's really where plant healthcare started back in the 60s, 70s, 80s. Spray trucks, big tree spraying. And as we've kind of moved forward in technology and as a society, foliar spraying of trees has really become marginalized. There's still some areas where that might be used. Like I put up bagworms on that last slide. That might be something where a foliar spray may be necessary or may fit the best. But there's different chemicals that you can use in a foliar spray. You can use a softer pesticide. There's one called Conserve, which is spinosad is the active ingredient. And maybe that's something that fits in there. But will you be doing foliar sprays? Will you be doing bark sprays? There's certain systemics you can spray on the bark. Soil drench, tree injection. Then beneficials, maybe in certain aspects you could release beneficials onto a property. I know the Dallas Arboretum does that to success, but that's because they're managing acreage and not a quarter-acre lot. Plant growth regulators. Paclobutrazol is a fantastic treatment for trees. My colleague, Corey, who I believe is on here today, he gave a whole presentation not too long ago just about paclobutrazol. It's an amazing plant healthcare tool. Anything else you do in PHC affects kind of the environment or what's around the tree, whereas paclobutrazol, or the PGR, affects the tree's physiology. It changes how the tree is functioning on a physiological level. Nothing else you can do in your plant healthcare toolbox does the same thing as Paclo. And then you get into your soil amending. Supersonic air knife, deep root feeding, carbon sources, NPK. You can put mycorrhizae, beneficial bacteria, seaweed extracts, wetting agents, humectants. There's all sorts of things you can do to the soil, and that's for a reason, because when you're dealing with sick trees, especially in an urban environment, it's underground that is usually the root of the problem, unintended. So there's all sorts of stuff you can do out there, and it's overwhelming, especially if you're new to this. So figure out what you're going to offer, and then make a plan on how those services are going to fit into your company and how you're going to bill for it. Next question, what equipment do I need to get started? And that's really going to depend on what opportunities that you chose to focus on. A couple of things I would recommend: a backpack sprayer. Some of you have probably seen that Arborjet, we have a new tool called the AccuFlow soil injector. It operates off of this FlowZone Typhoon backpack sprayer. Having been a spray tech using an old pump up solo backpack and then putting on this fantastic FlowZone backpack sprayer, I was blown away. These backpack sprayers are fantastic. It's an 18-volt battery operated backpack, and it just works phenomenally well. So a good backpack sprayer, you'd be surprised what you can accomplish in PHC with just that tool. Tree injection. What many folks like about the tree injection is how compact it is. There used to be a company I worked with, and their guy was running around in a Prius injecting trees. That was their plant healthcare vehicle, was a Prius, because with the quick jet air, it's a small package. All you need is that and your drill and hammer and your bottle of chemistry. You're good to go. So tree injection, if that's something that fits into those opportunities you're focusing on, we can definitely help you there. The spray rig. If you're really going to take your plant healthcare program to a level where you think, man, I'm really succeeding here, a spray rig will be necessary. This picture that I put up here, this is called a Space Saver, and this would be a good starter rig for somebody. I believe that's a 200-gallon unit. You can see it slides up to the front of the bed of a truck, and it still allows some room in the back of the truck to put other things. That's a 200-gallon unit. You can get some work done with that. The company that I worked for, we had a truck with a 600-gallon tank and a truck with a 500-gallon tank, and we were doing pretty well. Other companies that I've meet with and consult with, I mean, they're running trucks out with 1,000 gallons a day, and they have multiple trucks like that. So they've really gone farther. But that would be a good starter rig. And now PHC trucks come in all shapes and sizes. There's the different cab over units, different spray trucks with the roll-up garage doors, really looking sharp. But I think you can start here with the Space Saver and do some good work. And with that spray rig, you'd want a root feeder attachment and also a spray gun. And finally, the other tool that I think is worth considering is the supersonic air knife. Root collar excavation and soil decompaction are extremely important. Whenever I was out diagnosing trees, the root flare is where I started. If I could not see a good exposed root collar or root flare, I was selling a root collar excavation. And in my experience in the Dallas-Fort Worth market, improper planting practices or poor nursery stock are the leading cause of tree decline. You would be so surprised when you start doing root collar excavations what you find underground. You're going to find all sorts of girdling roots. You're going to find planting straps, wire baskets, nylon ropes that are holding the root ball together have all become girdled into the trunk and embedded into the trunk of the tree. So using the supersonic air knife for a root collar excavation is a really great plant healthcare service, and it's becoming more and more common practice. I'm sure if you guys are going to the same type of tree conferences that I do, you've seen talks about how good a tool like this can be for trees. All right, now this is probably the topic that you guys wanted to hear about. And actually, my colleague Corey that I mentioned earlier, he did a presentation last year about how do you price and sell PHC services. And I actually borrowed a few slides from Corey because they were relevant to what we're talking about today. So when you're pricing plant healthcare, this is an image that comes to mind. You can make this as complicated or as simple as you want to. Ultimately, the pricing structure must fit your business model. And also, you need to make sure your team is comfortable with the way these services are priced. The company that I used to work at, most of our pricing was very, very simple. And then when it came to pricing out plant growth regulators, for some reason, the owner of the company had made some sort of crazy formula for pricing out that service. Because the rate of the product changes based on tree species and tree diameter, and he just made it really, really complicated. And it's confusing. And so when I was the technician or the manager, these work orders would come in and the pricing was all over the place. So some considerations to make on pricing PHC services is the pest or problem that you're treating, the treatment method, how much does your chemical or your equipment cost, and ultimately the biggest thing is the applicator hours that are required. Your labor expenses are always the leading cost. The chemicals are mixed in there, but the labor costs are always more. I recommend that you get an understanding of the industry. How much are your competitors charging for these services? Because you don't want to be too low on your competitors, you don't want to be too high. Understand the industry, and that's easy enough to do. You can have your competitor give a bid at your brother-in-law's house. And then you'll see how others are pricing these different services. It's important to set a minimum charge for whatever it is you're doing. And again, it's got to fit your business model. Set a minimum charge. Maybe for a deep root feeding application, minimum charge might be $200. For tree injection, it might be $150. Whatever it is that you're comfortable with and what fits your business model. You have to have that built-in insulation just to get to somebody's front door. And then be consistent with how you're pricing things. Again, make sure everybody's in your company is on the same page. You can charge by the inch, square foot, the tree. In tree injection is very, very easy for pricing. Most people are charging by the diameter inch. And so I put an example here, $10 per inch. That's a pretty standard rate. I see pricing for tree injection from $10 an inch up to $20, $25 an inch. Really depends on what you're doing and where you're doing that service. I'm going to run out at 10 because the math is really easy. 20-inch diameter tree times $10 an inch, that's a $200 tree. And so maybe your minimum charge for tree injection is $200. And so what that means is if somebody had one 15-inch tree, that would still be $200. But if they had two 15-inch trees, all right, that's 30 inches times $10 an inch. That's $300 to do your two trees. So pricing by the inch for tree injection really makes sense because that's how we're determining the amount of product and everything like that that we're using. So charge by the inch on that. And we're going to talk about some more pricing as we go through this. If I've already put you to sleep, I want you to wake up. Your attention, please. Start an annual and biannual plant healthcare service. This is going to be your bread and butter. Your annual treatment or your biannual, 2 times a year, is a renewable revenue source with a repeat customer base. This allows your revenue to become less dependent on finding new customers. If you are solely a service-based company where you're doing pruning and removals, you are dependent on getting new customers to call you up. Now, I'm sure there's people that you've worked with for years. However, how often does somebody need their trees? Once a year, twice a year? No. Every other year? Maybe. Whenever they call you? What about tree removal? How often does somebody need a tree removed? Once, right? So with plant healthcare, it allows you to have a renewable revenue source. Repeat. You're going to touch that same property multiple times in a year. And then what happens, and it's amazing. When you start a service like this and it starts to take off, become successful, your PHC customers become a pool of business for your other services. Because if somebody is on your biannual treatment service, they are a better customer than somebody who's calling you, price shopping you and your competitors for a pruning bid. If you get somebody onto a biannual treatment service, you're going to be touching that property 2 to 3 times a year. They're going to see you out there. They're going to get familiar with you. They're going to know you by your first name. You're going to know them by their first name. You're going to know their trees. So then when something happens, a storm or limb breaks or whatever, they're not going to call anybody else. They're not going to be price shopping. When they need pruning, they're not going to price shop. You're going to be out there and say, hey, we need to prune your trees. Okay, sure, give us a bid. It's going to become a higher end customer and it's going to change your business. The other thing with this type of service is you can pitch it to everyone. If you get called out for a pruning bid, go ahead and talk to them about plant healthcare. Hey, we'll get you a pruning bid, but while I was out here, I noticed whatever problem. I'd like to talk to you about our plant healthcare services. No, thanks, we're not interested. Okay, I'll just leave you a flyer so you can take a look at it on your own time. Pitch it to everyone. The worst they can tell you is no, right? Now I really sound like a salesperson. So the worst they can tell you is no. Pitch it to everyone. Best case, you get them on your plant healthcare program. If I had a company called Emmett's Plant Healthcare, this is what my biannual service would look like. I would be doing a spring fertilization for trees, perhaps shrubs too, although fertilizing shrubs is kind of a pain. But a biannual service, I'd be doing a spring fertilization. That'd be March and April. And it may change depending on your service area, what time spring is. Maybe if somebody's in Florida, spring is in January and February, right? Or in SoCal. And then up north, maybe they're looking at April, May for spring. But so in my particular area, I could probably be doing this now, late February into March as a spring fertilization. Then you're seeing that bullet point, correct? In the summer, I'd be doing a free summer checkup, free. Let me tell you a little story about this and why this is important. So a free checkup, this is just included with your service. So I want you to think about something. I did not go to a dentist for, I think it was about 6 years. I didn't go to a dentist. I had dental insurance. I just didn't go. I was too busy. It wasn't important to me at the time. My teeth have always been fine. Never had any cavities, things like that. Didn't go. And so finally, my wife's cousin was working for a dentist. And so Macy gets us to set up appointments. And I go over there and I tell them, you know, I haven't been to a dentist in 6 years. And I'm like, oh, wow, okay. And so the lady's doing a cleaning on my teeth. And she's like, oh, wow, you know, you do a really good job with your home care. I was like, okay. And she's looking and I had chipped a tooth in the front of my mouth. I chipped a tooth a while back, and so she sees that. And, this is just the dental hygienist. She is not the dentist. She's looking at my mouth and she says, I see you chipped your tooth, and that's because your teeth in the front, your bite's a little off, and your teeth are rubbing together, and it's making your teeth thin, and that's why it chipped. We can correct your bite with Invisalign. Okay, how much is that going to cost? $5,000. No, thank you. But I want you to think about this example with the dentist, because while I'm sitting there and she's cleaning my teeth, I'm thinking about, because this is what I used to do when I was in plant healthcare. So we do this free summer checkup. That's what your dental cleaning is. It is absolutely not necessary for you to go to a dentist every 6 months, or probably even once a year. Don't get me wrong, I'm not telling you to not go to a dentist, but that annual cleaning is probably not necessary. Your teeth aren't going to rot and fall out of your head if you don't do an annual cleaning. However, the dental industry has trained us that is a necessary service. And really what that service is it is a checkup. They're looking for problems in your mouth so that they can correct and fix your problems. But really, from their business model, it's an opportunity for upsell. That hygienist wanted to upsell me on Invisalign. And then also they were looking, they're like, we see some spots on these teeth. These are like pre-cavities. They're not real cavities yet. They're like pre-cavities. It's just some tooth discoloration. But anyways, they're gonna sell you some fillings on that. So the dentist wants you in that chair so he can look in your mouth, find a problem, charge you to fix it. And that is what this free summer checkup is. It's quote unquote free because you have a biannual service that you're doing on this property that's covering your expense of being out there. And when you're there, the homeowners love it. Hi, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, we're going to be in your area tomorrow. We're just going to drop by, take a look at the trees. We want to make sure everything is healthy. Oh, that would be lovely. Thank you. You go out there and maybe everything is healthy. You leave them a note. Hey, we're in the summer. Just want to make sure that your irrigation is running 2 times a week, so your trees don't get drought stressed. I didn't find any problems today. Keep up the good work. Or maybe you go out there. You know what? We're starting to see Japanese beetles in the areas. I noticed some feeding on your linden trees. We need to get those treated. Please contact me and I'll let you know how much the treatment costs. Or you're out there. You know what? It's been a couple of years since we pruned your trees. I noticed that the limbs are getting cut close to the roof. Let's go ahead and get you a pruning estimate. It's an opportunity to upsell this customer base, and they're going to thank you for it because you're doing it for free, and it's something like you're doing it out of the goodness of your heart. But it's an opportunity to upsell your customer base. So you're going to be looking for insects. It's a scouting visit. You're looking for insects, diseases, pruning needs, etc. And then in the fall, you're going to be doing your second application. Around here, that'd be September, October. It'd be a soil building application. And this goes back to like the comments I made about a carbon-based feeding program. And quite honestly, if this were Emmett's PHC program, that's what I'd be doing in the spring and the fall. I'm a big proponent of using carbon-based products to feed the soils. And so from our line of Arborjet products, hopefully you've seen some information on that. What I'm referring to is doing a mix of BioMP, which is a molasses-based product, Enviroplex, which is humic acid, and Cytogrow, seaweed extract. So these are all carbon-based products. That's feeding the microorganisms in the soil, helping on some level to improve the soil structure and improve the root development and rooting of the trees. So if you have healthy soil, healthy roots, healthy trees. That is really important when it comes to plant health care. In certain situations, an NPK fertilizer like Arborplex may be necessary, but nitrogen, its role in plant health care is to encourage growth. And so if your goal is to encourage growth, then yes, use that. If your goal is to improve plant health, then you may be looking more towards these carbon-based type products. Now, This is kind of the $64,000 question. How do you price these deep root feeding services? A couple of different methods. You have the DBH method, kind of like I was talking about with tree injections. You have the square foot method. I was talking to somebody not too long ago, and I probably didn't come up with this, but it struck me. You can do like a small, medium, or large method. And so all of these have pros and cons. The DBH method, that might work in your typical home lot where you have a couple of trees. You measure the diameter, maybe you're charging $3 to $5 per inch to do your deep root feeding, deep root fertilization. That might work in that situation, but if you get on a wooded lot where maybe there's 20 or 30 trees, that's not really going to work there, because you're going to have all these trees on a confined square footage. And then with the square foot method, maybe you're working in yards that are really cramped and small, and you have a large tree that fills up most of the square footage. Doesn't really work in that situation. So there's various ways of doing this. It's going to be some trial and error on your part, and getting comfortable with however it is that you want to offer this and sell this. What the small, medium, large method is you lump your trees into categories. Small, 6 inches and less. Medium, 6 to 15 inches. Large, 15 to 25. Extra large, 25 plus. And you put a dollar amount based on the DBH of those trees. Maybe a 6-inch tree is 50, or 6 inch and less is $50. Medium is 75. Large, 100. I'm just throwing numbers out there, but you kind of get what I'm saying. But ultimately, I think any way that if you start off with any of these methods, what it's going to lead you to is the eyeball method or the price per gallon method, which is what I'm familiar with. The company I worked for, that's how we did it. The owner, he had done plant healthcare services for a long time. And any of the salesmen had also kind of come up through the plant healthcare program. And so how this worked is we would literally eyeball the property, and we'd have an idea of how many gallons it would take to treat that property. And so ultimately what this comes out to is kind of a price per gallon method. And so, for instance, say they sold a deep root feeding job. The company I worked at, we did an annual service, one treatment in the spring. And we wanted to get about $5 per gallon of juice that I put out into the ground. And so say they sold a job for $400 or $500. I could pull up as the technician and say, well, this means I need to use roughly 100 gallons on this job. And so it kind of gave me that idea of how many gallons to use. And that's how we were pricing it. I call it the eyeball method. And I think as you start using these other methods to kind of build up your confidence, you're going to figure this out. You're going to figure out about how much you're going to use on these different properties. The other thing to note here is as you go about this and do this, not all trees need a heavy dose. And that's the tricky thing with deep root feeding, because it's not an exact science. With the DBH method, maybe you're going to be looking at something, you say, well, according to the label, I need to use this much. And I have to put down 2 to 3 gallons of mixed up solution per inch of tree. Well, that's not always feasible. So if you have a 33-inch diameter tree and you're trying to put down 3 gallons per inch diameter, you're going to be putting down 100 gallons on one tree. That's not always doable, and it's not always necessary. And so there's ways to think about this as a maintenance rate and a curative rate. So if that 33-inch diameter tree is sick and declining, it very well may need that 100 gallons. But if you're doing a maintenance rate, you can use less. And so that's how we operated. If there's a tree that we were treating to try to recover it, it definitely got the full therapeutic rate. If we were just doing a maintenance deep root fertilization, deep root feeding, we were using kind of a maintenance, a lower rate on these trees. And we can come back to that. We've got about 10 minutes left and just a few slides. So I think we're doing good. Next thing you want to do is find your ideal customer. You got to think about that. Who do you want to be doing business with? As I said earlier, plant healthcare, those are a higher end. Those are going to be your better customers. If somebody signed up for your plant healthcare services, they are going to basically sign up for anything that you recommend, especially as you build a relationship with these folks, you start taking care of their properties for years and years. So you want to consider location, income bracket, other qualities, but really what you're focusing on is your high-end residential. Those are your target audience for plant healthcare services. Those of you that are familiar with the Kansas City metro area, I put a circle here. That's just a really nice high-end area of KC Metro in the southwest side of the city. And I'm sure anywhere that you're located throughout the United States, you know where the nice neighborhoods are. That's where you want to focus any of your marketing efforts, because those are the people that care about their landscapes and they want those plant healthcare services. Other things you want with those customers, somebody that pays their debts, the people that say, send the invoice, right? Those are my favorite. Just do it, send the invoice. Those are the folks that value their landscape and the relationship with you. They trust you as a professional. They value your opinion, and it makes doing business easy. Those are the folks that you want on your plant healthcare service offering. Last couple of slides here, just some other considerations to think about. I'm going to talk about people, your spray tech. And right now, almost everyone that I meet with, hiring people is becoming more and more difficult, hiring good people especially. And so my first bullet point, hire the right people. It's like, well, no duh, Emmett, yeah, of course. But it's really important. And what that right person is, it's really about attitude. Hire people with good attitudes, because I'll share a story about a technician that worked for me. His name was Quang. We called him Q. So Q was this Vietnamese guy. He was much older than me, and I was the PHC manager. He was the technician. We got along great. I loved working with Q because he showed up on time every day. He had a smile on his face. And if I just had a full day of go do deep root fertilization, he was thrilled to do it. He was extremely happy. He could have just done that all day, every day, and he loved it. He had the right attitude. Other technicians that I had, they would complain. Oh man, I got 10 feeds today. Like, well, yeah, you're plant healthcare tech. That's your job. So hire the right people, get people with the right attitude. And also the converse of that, if there are toxic people in your organization, you've got to do things to eliminate the toxicity, because toxic people, that's just going to breed and brew in your organization, and it starts with one person, and then a whole crew, a whole team is affected by it. Something else that works really well is to give responsibility as your program begins to take off. Maybe it's the business owner that's taking on the brunt of the responsibility at first. But as you groom a technician into a manager of plant healthcare, you've got to make sure you give them responsibility. That program that I operated, we were off on our own. We had the plant healthcare office. It was me and Q for the most part. I owned that plant healthcare program. The work orders came into me. We got the work scheduled. We got it done. We took care of we got the payments from the people. I owned it, and it was running very well. Give people responsibility. And because if you're just micromanaging all the time, keeping them under your thumb, it's not going to flourish. So you've got to learn to let go, and that can often be a difficult thing to learn. But give responsibility to people, and it will help them become a better employee. As you're getting started with this, that PHC technician, can kind of be a floater within your company. They can also grind stumps. They could be a substitute crew member if needed during the peak season, dragging brush, learning grounds work. It's kind of what I did. And it really helps. You learn a lot about different aspects of trees and tree care when you're doing these other jobs. You learn a lot about trees grinding stumps, quite honestly. And then PHC can become kind of an advancement path in the company, bring people up ultimately into that sales role or different positions within your organization. Something else that worked really well for me was setting up plant healthcare territories. Those of you with larger companies, I'm sure you have sales territories for your arborists or your salespeople. I set up the same thing for plant healthcare technicians. And so what happens with this is you get the same technician going to the same property on every visit, and you start to build that relationship. And so Huang or Q, he had customers that absolutely loved him. And then I had customers that absolutely loved me because they would see me 3 times a year. And we were on a first name basis. I could just drop them a line or an email. Hey, I'm going to be in your neighborhood. Just want to drop in, see how the trees are doing. Oh, that'd be great, Emmett. Thank you. And then there's properties that I had taken care of for 4 years and seen their trees grow like in a new neighborhood. And I'd be out there standing with the people a few years later and they're like, wow, just look at the size of our trees compared to our neighbors. Thank you. And so building that relationship is really important. And that customer service of having the same technician out there on every visit, it really goes a long ways. Companies that don't do well, they have different technicians on the property every visit. And that discourages trust from the end user or from the customer because they don't know who this person is. They don't trust them. You know, I had people that I'd call on, oh, sure, we'll leave the gate open for you. But if it's somebody new, they may not trust that technician. It just makes things a little bit more difficult. And it makes that upselling, which is very important, more difficult if you don't have that trust. Now, speaking of upselling, this is something, again, a consideration. Technicians, they can make commission on upsells. That might be something to implement in your business. But again, if you have the right people, someone that's going to use that ethically. I had a technician that he figured out the commission that we were offering and he started selling stuff and it wasn't the right stuff. And so he wasn't too long in that position, but it's got to be the right people. And then another thing, if you're trying to grow plant healthcare, you might increase the commission on PHC services to your entire sales team. You know, I'm not sure what standard commission is anymore, but some places it used to be like a 6% commission on tree work. And then maybe you're doing 8% on plant healthcare. All right, we're rounding out here, guys. Some keys to success with plant healthcare. Customer service is your #1 priority because customer retention is what is fueling your growth. The program that I operated, I strive to have really high customer retention. Very few people left our program by their own will. And what I mean by that is the accounts that I lost is because the person passed away or they moved. And you'd be surprised how many people move or pass away in a year. But customer retention fuels that growth. It's hard to grow if you're constantly trying to add new accounts. Another thing with customer service is you get those referrals. The neighbors talk to each other or their friends across town or whoever. Those customer referrals are absolute gold. That's almost a done deal as soon as you get the call. This is kind of common sense, but it needs to be said. Show up on time and do what you say you're going to do. Those are 2 huge things for customer service. Be there on time and do what you say you're going to do, and people will respect you tremendously. Now, other things, marketing. We have some marketing materials available. We can chat about that later if you're interested, and then continue with your professional development. There's lots of opportunities out there. You're on this webinar, which is one of them. But look at the different organizations, ISA, TCIA, ASCA, your local chapters. industry workshops and events continue to increase your knowledge, become a better arborist, become better at your craft. Always be looking to learn and improve. And if you're new to this, these industry events can help you to grow your professional network. Get to know some of the guys in your area that are doing it well. Ask for help. Most people are kind enough in our industry, and that's one of the things I love about this industry, is people are willing to help. You know, there's enough trees out there for everyone to take. So grow your network, and then also find dependable resources. As you're growing your knowledge, look at extension publications, look to other industry professionals, find dependable resources that you can trust. Just some final thoughts here. This whole presentation has been about succeeding at plant healthcare, and I hope you picked something up. And my job with Arborjet is really to help my customers succeed. That's when you boil down everything that I do. You know, I mentioned putting together treatment protocols or helping with treatment protocols for folks, doing webinars, doing live speaking engagements, workshops, whatever it is I'm doing. It's ultimately about helping the end users succeed. And then as it pertains to your personal plant health or your businesses, your plant healthcare program, I want you to think about this. This is Frank Lloyd Wright. I know the price of success: dedication, hard work, and an unremitting devotion to the things you want to see happen. Is that what you're doing when it comes to plant healthcare? Are you working at it hardly? Are you working at it hard and dedicated to it? And this is another one I borrowed from my friend Corey. He's a huge Packers fan. Success isn't owned, it's leased. And the rent is due every day. So think about that when it comes to succeeding at plant healthcare. Thank you, folks. That is what I had for you today. Here's my contact information. Feel free to reach out. Save it. I'm happy to help anybody that's an Arborjet customer or for that matter, not an Arborjet customer. I'm the South Central Technical Manager. I'm happy to field questions from anybody. So feel free to reach out. Let's see. Now I'm going to pull up this chat. I might have to put on my glasses so I can see what people are saying. Okay. All right, let me go back here. Oh man, lots of stuff in here. Hang on. Not sure some of these are questions. Man, this is great. You guys were going back and forth in the chat, kind of some dialogue in here about some of the things I was talking about. This is fantastic. Thank you. Good job. Thank you. Well done. Okay. Looking for recommendations on software specifically for plant healthcare, client tracking, quotes, invoicing, etc. Paul, I am not 100% sure on this. I can tell you what I've heard of the most lately is called single ops. I know nothing about it, but folks that I deal with on a regular basis tend to love that program, and I hear about it more and more throughout the industry. single ops. Other people, and I think it might depend on the size of your organization. That's not something that I've been too involved with. I know some people just run it out of QuickBooks for smaller organizations. Arbor Gold is another one I've heard tossed around, but single ops tends to be the favorite right now. Those of you that are still on, if you did not send in your ISA number, please do that now. In order to get the CEU credit, I do need your ISA number. Jeff says he'd like to see a webinar on what to do when treatments don't fix the problem. Warranties, guarantees, communication with customer expectations, liability with big money trees. That's a great comment. You cannot guarantee anything. You're dealing with a living organism. You're dealing with Mother Nature. So guarantees are kind of out of the question. People will ask that. So for instance, like with our product triage, we're confident telling you triage lasts for 2 years to control wood borers. And people have come back to me and said, well, what kind of guarantee do you have on that? There is no guarantee, but what I can tell you is that the research is very strong. And so you're dealing with a living organism. It's like, does a doctor give you a guarantee? And the answer is no. It's probably a longer conversation we can have about this. But customer expectations, I'm glad you brought that up because I failed to mention that. Setting people's expectations with plant healthcare services is extremely important. If you're treating a tree for, let's say this tree, they built a house on top of it, right? Construction stress. Setting those expectations is extremely important. Hey, your tree is really damaged from the construction process. It looks terrible right now. I know that. Once we start treating this tree, what I'm trying to do right now, I want it to look exactly the same when I come back next time. I don't want it to get any better. I don't want it to get any worse. I'm just trying to stop the bleeding. That's an expectation. So set the expectations with people. Otherwise, they're going to think as soon as you start treating a tree that it's going to look better tomorrow, maybe, right? So set the customer's expectations. And then liability with big money trees. Another thing I forgot to mention, know when to walk away. ISA has the tree risk assessment qualification. I actually just went through that a few weeks ago. I found it very valuable and would recommend it to you because you can't just think that you're going to save every tree on every property. Sometimes it's not possible. Sometimes they're too far gone. Sometimes they are a hazardous tree and they need to be removed. So great point you bring up there, Jeff. Thank you. Philip is asking best application method equipment for deep root treatments. You need a spray rig. When you're doing a deep root fertilization, that's a high volume game. So I showed a picture of a 200-gallon rig up there. That's a good starter rig. It's called a Space Saver. Look into that. And then you just need a root feeding lance attachment. But you're going to need a spray rig that can generate probably at least 200 PSI when you're doing deep roots. You have a specific training plan, Arborjet video progression to raise up technicians from within. Thank you. Yes, Jacob, we actually just, if you guys could stay on mute, I'm trying to get through some questions. So Jacob is asking about a training plan. We actually have a on-demand training series of videos that we put out earlier this year. Josh, if you're listening, can you make a note to reach out to Jacob Kane about that? Will is asking how long till this will post by the CEU. I'll get this submitted today. I'm not sure how long the ISA will take to get that posted to your account. Paul Patterson, any idea of the next oak wilt training course in and around Dallas, Texas? The oak wilt trainings in Texas are taking place in, there's one in Glen Rose, I believe in May, and Fredericksburg in June.
Oh, can you need a picture address?
David Williams is asking about Arborjet, has a label for hardwood trees and multiple nutrients. Is deep root feeding significant better than injecting nutrients? That's kind of a, if for the palm injecting trees, in my mind, tree injection is used to solve a problem. The tree is sick, it has some sort of affliction, and the injection is you're applying medicine to correct that problem. And so like in Arborjet's instance, maybe you have a tree where the root zone is completely covered and you need to get some nutrients to that tree, or maybe the tree is in bad shape and you want to get some nutrients into its vascular system. For your standard just deep root fertilization, I would not go around injecting trees with Arborjet if I could do a deep root instead. Chris Olson is asking about needle cast. Chris, propofol is labeled for diplodia tip blight, and we are seeing effect on other needle diseases as well. Tim Packer, you could reach out to me, and I'll get you connected with your rep. Chris, price changes. We have some changes on our equipment, but I believe most of our chemistry has stayed the same. David says Arbostar is another great option for DRM. David, one truck with 2 technicians. I've done that before.
We are.
It's more. It's not the most efficient. It really doesn't add an efficiency aspect. I did that when like we had 2 PHC trucks. If one of the trucks was down, he would go with me. And we had 2 hose reels on our truck, so we could both get out. Like he would go to the backyard, or I would do the front yard, and we could get the jobs done faster. But then we'd run through our liquid, and we'd have to be going to fill up again somewhere. So it can be done, but the best was just 1 tech per truck.
See, we've got a freshwater tank plus, so we can always fill it up. How many gallons? It was 400 or 500, I think. We can run through more than that in a day.
Yeah. I mean, our techs would run through 700,
yeah,
750 sometimes.
So let's see. Any testing on spruce needle cast with shortstop? I don't have an answer to that, but I could get back to you, Warren. I do know shortstop works for Cytospora canker on spruce needle cast. Ooh, Randy is asking about product that could have got frozen in his garage. I do not know the answer to that question, Randy. I'm not sure. Michael. Michael, I'd have to dig into the labels on your question about how much product to be applied to a shrub. I'm not sure how big the shrub is. That seems like that would be adequate with what you're doing. If you're using the AccuFlow to run those products, you're going to be mixing those up at a higher. You're going to need to mix those up at a higher concentration, so less water. It's just going to be some math to really figure that out. Okay, I believe I got. I got through. Somebody's asked me if when this recording will be available. We did record it. I'm not exactly sure what we're going to do with this recording just yet. A lot of times we put them on YouTube, but we may do something different with this one so that people can continue to get a CEU for it in the future. Shaughnessy is asking about something I've never heard before. Blister beetle on honey locust. We have been doing R10 and shortstop. So blister beetle, that's going to be a piercing sucking insect, I believe. I'd have to look into that pest to figure out what might be the best. Our product AceJet is very broad spectrum and will kill just about any tree feeding pest. So if they're oh, here's my friend Chris. Honey locust plant bug is R10. He's on it. Thank you, Chris. Michael's asking about horned oak gall. I know it's a huge problem in your area. We installed a new research site in Baldwin this fall. Kind of the same message. Really, what we found with our research on horned oak gall is the trees that are heavily infested. The treatments, the trees that are heavily infested are not candidates for treatment. On our initial research site, we had treatments and untreated, and the trees that we had categorized as heavy infestations, we lost about half of them on that property. So those were not candidates for treatment. The medium to light infestations are responding better. And again, our goal is to prevent new galls from forming. But the site that we've installed in Baldwin last fall is a much better location, and I'm looking forward to the results we get out of that. Okay. Man, thank you guys so much for being on here with me today and asking some good questions. I really appreciate it. Man, this is fun. Thank you. And again, I hope I brought you some information that was valuable and you were able to apply to your business like I was talking about at the beginning. So we'll go ahead and wrap up the chat session here and get your CEU submitted. Inspiring. Wow. Thanks, Jesse. Thank you all for being on here. This is, like I said, I enjoy the tree care industry. Got lots of great people here. Thank you.
All right, well, thank you, Emmett. I think this concludes everything here. I will we'll stop the recording and end the session for today. Thank you for everyone for joining us. And as Emmett said, we may end up putting this on YouTube, but it might be a little bit longer. We might have it available in an internal program so that we can continue to offer the credits on this. So we will keep an eye out. You can always take a look at our YouTube channel as well as the Arborjet website under training. If you would like to see some other presentations as well as potentially this one. All right.